All right, welcome to another episode of Heroes and I'm Andy. This is my good pal Cody.
That's me.
That's him. And we are here to talk about Heroes and Joker. And so obviously, you know, this is a podcast, a YouTube channel that talks about movies, comics, TV shows, all things geek culture. And CP, today we are discussing the latest DC film that came out last weekend. Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips. It was number one in the box office this past weekend. Probably heard about it, and so let's dive right into it. But let me go ahead and clarify. Spoiler alert! All right, so if you haven't seen the movie, definitely want to make sure that you go see it first. But or if you don't care, all right,
then just keep watching.
Yeah, keep watching. Thank you. And so. CP, you and I, we saw this together with our good friend Tim and
T.O.
Yeah, T.O. He was on the podcast for a couple episodes, and we saw it together. You've only seen it once,
right?
I've only seen it once as well. There was before we dive into the actual review, let's talk a little bit about the anticipation for this movie.
Yeah,
even some news backlash or some media reports trying I don't want to say stirring the pot, but not like they weren't reporting stuff that was important necessarily, but
right.
But there was just some controversy going into this movie. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So if you're not aware of kind of what we're talking about, going into and as Joker had been seen by some critics, it was being talked about saying that it was glorifying violence in our society, particularly with all of this, with these shootings that have happened over the last several years and the increased frequency of those.
Yeah.
And so the conversation was that this movie is painting the Joker, painting Joaquin Phoenix's character, and ultimately people who carry out these massive violent acts as heroes rather than obviously not heroes.
Yeah.
And so that was the conversation going into this movie. And so it was to the point where Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, Warner Brothers, like they all were putting out statements and talking about it with media outlets saying, you know, we just please go into it with an open mind.
Yeah.
That's not what we're trying to say. And yeah, so it was definitely a lot riding, definitely high stakes, I guess, going into it.
For sure. And not, again, you know, we like to have fun here. This isn't a heavy podcast, but when we saw it, we were aware of those stuff, and, you know, we were paying extra close attention to the theater and stuff like that. A lot of theaters across the country had heightened security, and you know, even reports from newspapers in New York saying that undercover cops were going to be in the theaters and stuff like that. And so it was kind of crazy, just like, again, like when we were watching it as we were going, you know, to our theater, to our seats, so just kind of being aware of that, talking a little bit about that with Tim and stuff like that. And so I mean, there was some buzz going into the movie. Obviously, a lot of people were excited because it's a Joker movie.
Right.
Joker, maybe the most iconic villain, you know, out there, and so a lot of people were excited about it. But of course, this spotlight on it brought maybe more attention to it, and so anyways, we wanted to just talk about that again. It was part of our viewing experience, and so maybe it was part of yours as well. But so let's go ahead and talk about the movie. Let's go ahead and dive into it. We saw it again. CP, you only saw it once. I only saw it once. So we'll do our best to recall stuff. But what were your thoughts maybe after seeing the movie immediately, and then maybe if they've changed since then, because it's been a few days since we saw it. Again, if there was a difference or if you thought about it more, you know, give us your feedback on the film, man.
So I immediately when we got out of the theater, I was texting Morgan
Yep.
About it, and she asked if I liked it, and I was like, honestly, I don't know that I liked it. I think it is. I'll say this: I think it is a great movie. But I don't know that I don't think it's a movie. I've told this to people as I've been talking about it. I don't think it's a movie that I'll probably watch it another 1 or 2 times. In my life. And that is just because it does such a great job of the conversation that or it does such a great job of capturing and communicating really what the kind of a conversation that just we, especially as an American society, but really I would say as the world as a whole, just, like it's a conversation we need to have. And so like any uncomfortable conversation, it's uncomfortable, and it's not one that you're enjoying all the time, and it's not one it's not one that that is one that it's not one that you want to have. And so I told Morgan that I kept thinking of from Harry Potter when Ollivander is telling Harry about Voldemort's about Lord Voldemort. And he says, after all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great. And so thinking of that, that's kind of how I felt about the movie, where it was like, it's made me feel terrible, but I do see and value it as a great movie. It's just very heavy. Kind of like Gone Girl is another good example, or some of the really great World War II reenactments or recreations, where it's like, I can see the cinematic value of this, but it does make me uncomfortable. I will say Joaquin Phoenix killed it.
He did, man.
And he was incredible in throughout the whole movie, and just like his condition where he laughs in uncomfortable situations, looked like it physically ailed him and physically hurt him so well. And not to mention all whatever weight I'm sure he lost, because he was super thin and was contorting himself in strange ways at times. Crazy. And so he did an incredible job, and there's just also some really beautiful cinematography, just some really beautiful shots as well throughout. So what did you think, Andy?
Yeah, man. So I walked out the whole time I'm watching it. I was kind of rooting for Arthur. I was rooting for him, and because I knew, again, not to dive deep or anything like that, but he's a human being, a broken human being that wants love, that wants to be loved, and like all of us. And so I'm watching it.
You're rooting for him not to turn to Joker.
Correct. I'm rooting for him not to go into the deep end, off the deep end. And so it was very similar to, this is a spoiler alert maybe for Daredevil season 3, but it's very similar to how I was feeling towards the Bullseye character in that season, where he has issues, he's broken, and he is trying to stay on the path of right, and that's right and narrow and stuff like that, but unfortunately he gives into it and he becomes this killer assassin figure that ultimately becomes Bullseye. And so anyway, so I felt myself very much those feelings coming back to me when I was watching the Joker, where I was hoping that, obviously I knew he was going to be there. I knew there was no hope.
The movie's still called The Joker.
Yeah. So it's not like I knew there was no chance of him not becoming the Joker, but I still found myself hoping that he wouldn't go there. But so that's where I was as I was watching the movie. There were uncomfortable parts and stuff like that, and again he's a broken character, but you also see and he's broken character not because of necessarily his challenges or his mental illnesses. I'm not saying that's what makes him broken, but because that is a whole aspect of the character, is his mental illness. And but so I'm watching the movie. It has its awkward, uncomfortable parts in it, but what really made me uncomfortable was just how society was treating him. You know, and again, it doesn't justify any of his actions. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't make all of those murders just go away. You know, that's not the reasoning for it. But again, he's a human being who wants love and wants to be loved. You know,
he asks, and in like if you've seen the movie, you know he asked multiple times. Like, I'm not even sure. Up until recently, I wasn't even sure if I existed, and so like that says so much about where he's at. Like, even taking like to a person that doesn't have any history of mental illness, if you're not sure, like if people are treating you so terribly that you don't know if you're even like really there, you're gonna start to develop some sort of issues or depression post that. And so taking all that and then like dealing with and adding a mental illness on top of that, like you just really feel bad for him, because everyone, like from the movie is talking a lot about social status and
the different income classes.
So that's the word. I couldn't get the word out. It's talking a lot about those, but we see everyone from Thomas Wayne to the people that he lives in the same building as, and his coworkers that are his like clown coworkers. They're all treating him harshly and treating him unfairly and rudely, and so it's not just an issue with, it's like the movie's clever in that it's not even just an issue with the rich or just the poor. It's an issue with everyone.
Yeah. So it's definitely, so again, I'm watching it. It was just like I'm processing all these things, and I just felt bad for him. But then as the fanboy in me, I'm like, oh, this is a really different take on the Joker. Like, I like that him. Todd Phillips and his direction with the film, I enjoyed it. Again, like you said, Joaquin Phoenix did a phenomenal job. Definitely Oscar worthy, and I don't, so that's really exciting.
If Robert Downey Jr. in Endgame is Oscar worthy, then Joaquin Phoenix probably deserves it. Probably. Like, I love RDJ, but Joaquin Phoenix probably just deserves it.
For sure. So his performance is great. Todd Phillips, his direction, again, some of the shots, some wide shots. It felt like the movie was set in 1981, like early 80s, and so the feel of the movie even felt like it was filmed in that era, which was great. And so it was enjoyable from that perspective. Like, I was able to appreciate it from that perspective as well. And it was just, again, it was a good film. Definitely, like, it's not like one you just pop in.
It's not when you're eating popcorn with.
Yeah, like for a good time, like, oh, you want to watch like what do you have a free night? Like, you want to watch the Joker? Like, I don't know if it's like, you have to almost like be prepared, like mentally prepare yourself for that movie. And but yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And there's a lot to talk about now that we saw the movie. What's crazy is that there are so many fan theories out there and different things, because as you saw in the movie, he had his mental illnesses, and we come to find out that his neighbor, that relationship that he has with his neighbor, like, really wasn't there. Like, it was all in his head, and which is
another actress who has now played a role in both. Zazie Beetz has now played a role in both DC and Marvel.
Oh, that's right.
Because she was also Domino in Deadpool 2. So, anyway, random aside.
Yeah, and then so it's a lot of fun now to think, like, well, how much of the movie is real? Like, what's in his head? What storylines do we believe? So let's talk a little bit about Thomas Wayne. So Thomas Wayne plays a big part in this movie. Actually, a bigger part than I thought he was gonna play.
Same.
I was like, wow, this guy really is like a kind of important character. So Thomas Wayne, throughout the whole film, Arthur's mom is saying that Thomas Wayne's a good guy. He'll take care of us. We're like family. Come and find out that she's thinking that Thomas Wayne is his father, which then would make the Joker and Batman stepbrothers. Which I was preparing myself to go down that road,
for Joker 2, like an epic
brother face off. Like I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what that would look like. But anyways, but then you find out that she also has her mental issues as well, and Thomas Wayne finally has this encounter with the Joker and Arthur, and he's saying like, hey, that was all that's not true, man.
Yeah.
He even went to the Arkham to get the report, and
right.
to see
Arthur goes to Arkham and reads the report and finds out that it's not true.
Yeah. So, but some people think that it's still a possibility. Do you think that Thomas Wayne is his father, or you still believe kind of like how the movie basically portrays it?
So here's the issue that I had with it, kind of just talking about Thomas Wayne. I'm of the camp with Batman that Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne were like pillars of Gotham. They were heroes.
Yep.
They were good people. Yeah. And so even just as the movie started saying, that Arthur's Thomas's son, in that Thomas, so Thomas had an affair with Arthur's mom and ultimately abandoned them, and just said, you got fired them from her house. And it was just it was gut wrenching to me, because it was no, I need, Bruce needs Thomas and Martha to be really good people so that he can be a really good Batman. And so it was knowing, especially once we realized that Bruce was in the movie, and that that Thomas and Martha hadn't died yet. It was they have to be good people, is what I really wanted to believe. And so then, as we're going throughout the story, and we ultimately find out that according to Arkham's files, that's none of that's true. I was like, okay, this makes sense, However, it was still I did still feel a little bit like Thomas was a jerk to Arthur.
For sure.
But also at the same time, Arthur showed up at his house and grabbed his son, put his fingers in his son's mouth and was choking one of his butlers. And so which is that meant to be Alfred?
I think so. I think it's credited to him in the at the end that
to be Alfred. Okay. I wasn't sure if they said it, but if they said his name. But yeah, so it was just I really, so all that to say, I don't believe that that Thomas. I believe that Thomas is not Arthur's father.
I'm in that camp as well.
I also I would have freaked out a little bit if it was there was something to say that Thomas Wayne is controlling everything, and that he had the files changed.
Yep.
Which is very kind of similar to Daredevil season 3 with Kingpin. But because and it's not that there's not times where or been stories where the Waynes were bad people. In the Telltale, I don't think you ever played.
I never played it.
The Telltale Batman video games, but in those, it comes out that they were involved with Falcone, and that they were doing bad things for good reasons. Ultimately,
gotcha.
That's kind of the mob's whole thing anyway, and so
gotcha.
So yeah, it's not like that doesn't happen or it hasn't happened, but I just really wanted to believe that's not Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne is a good guy, and then one time in the one universe where Bruce gets killed, or one timeline where Bruce gets killed, then he goes over that.
Yes,
but he's still Batman. He's just So yeah, I don't believe that Thomas is a bad guy.
And I don't believe that he's the father. I don't think he's
not the dad.
Yeah, not
lie
the
detector test.
Not the dad. And then I don't like. It makes sense for the movie to kind of play him up to be this. And again, this movie's is in a different time period, where that kind of stuff was more, it was just those separations of like income levels and stuff like that were felt like the way they were portrayed in the movie. Like
Yeah.
it was obvious, right? So I get like why they portrayed him kind of to be this maybe bad guy, but I don't. Thomas Wayne, I'm with you. Should be like is a hero to Gotham, and that's he's the one trying to bring the city together and restore
he does
it.
come off pretty prideful in this movie because he says, "I'm the only hero from Gotham."
Yeah. So
again,
it's just a preference because I think I'm with you. I love Thomas Wayne, and the reason why Batman is partially because of his parents.
Like if there comes out to be a Green Goblin movie that says that Uncle Ben is a bad guy the whole time, people will riot.
Exactly. So I don't think that that's. I mean, that theory's out there. I don't choose to believe it. What do you think about the ending? What part of it we think is? There's some people saying that part of that that the Joker died in the car crash, and everything that we see afterwards is.
So I haven't even read that one.
So everything that you see with the moment from the car crash in the police car is him. He dies in that, and like everything after that is like purgatory or like an afterlife kind of a thing. So like,
I hadn't read that one.
I don't believe that.
I did see one. Let's just throw that one out.
I don't believe that.
I was reading one this morning actually before we recorded that it was saying that once he goes into the refrigerator, he dies in the refrigerator.
He dies in the refrigerator?
Yeah, and so like that because like there was I guess there's a whole thing about like somebody was saying that it was like actually a refrigerator manufacturing place that was saying that you can't get out of those types of refrigerators. Like old refrigerators like that.
Was that after?
So that's right before Murray calls him.
That's right before his coworkers come. That's before his coworkers come over.
I can't.
So
remember.
I'm saying him stabbing his coworker with the scissors.
I think that's all after.
Okay.
Yeah, his coworkers would have come after because he comes out of the refrigerator
and then he starts painting.
After the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing that happens is he gets the phone call from the TV show.
Gotcha.
So him killing the coworker would have been
afterwards.
Would have been after. I don't believe that either. I believe that Joker lives throughout the movie. He lives to the end of the movie.
Same.
They're talking about like Joaquin Phoenix has mentioned the potential for a Joker 2, which I feel like maybe he didn't want to do that before because I had read at one point that Todd Phillips had to like ask him for and beg him basically to get to do this movie. But now, seeing how well it came out, he maybe would be more interested in sticking around.
I told our good friend Matt from the podcast, I told him that money has a interesting way of changing people's mind. And so everyone can say last week,
one and done.
Yeah, one and done, I'm out. That's it. But then, all it takes is a pretty fat check. And you're like, you know what? I think I can put that paint on my face one more time, and so the theory maybe
so there's theories. There's
so
a
many
theory
theories.
that some of it happened, that none of it happened, and then and that all of it happened literally, except for what is explicitly said that it didn't happen, which is the love dynamic or relationship with his neighbor. And so so I am of the opinion that everything happened pretty much the way we saw it.
Yeah.
Except I think that the car crash stuff is played out bigger in his head.
Cause he there's a point there where when he draws the smile with his blood on his face.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I would ever say that sentence ever in my life. But and he gets this hero's.
He gets this hero's welcome.
Yeah, you know, and so
and everybody's there. Like people carry him out of the taxi cab or out of the police car.
Yeah, like
and like lay him on the hood. Like he is a hero.
Yeah.
I think that is played out. That's the only part I think that maybe didn't actually happen, that isn't said, that didn't actually happen.
Gotcha.
I think that either in that moment either the police car never gets hit, or the police car does get hit, but then he's not carried out by other clowns. He's carried out by police or ambulance or whoever. What about the theory? Have you read or heard of the one that it's none of it happened and it's all just him in the asylum?
I did hear that. Yeah, I don't know if I liked. I heard that. So if you haven't yet, that one's just saying exactly what you just said. Like he's just
towards the beginning of the movie, you see him banging his head on the window in Arkham Asylum, and then he comes back at the end of the movie. He's again in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah. So it never really necessarily happened. I don't like that one either.
I struggle with that one just because kind of coming back to the Waynes, because we know that the Waynes like do die in this movie, and so I did have the thought that if and I don't know if I've read this anywhere, but if like when he takes the files and he reads them, if he doesn't actually leave Arkham that day.
Okay.
If he gets captured, like in the asylum, and then the rest of the movie from there, because that would, like, if he had heard that the Waynes died, then he could, in his mind, could spin it in a way that it was about him.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting with all these fan theories. It's so, I mean, credit to the writers, the producers, Todd Phillips, those guys, the whole team there. But like, this is the beauty of the Joker's like origin story. It's like we've heard a couple of them, even comic book wise. We've seen a couple of them, have read a couple of them. The Killing Joke being, one of them. So it's like but the not knowing like what exactly happened, like which one's real, is like. I say the beauty of the character, like, but it's like it's what makes the character so fun and enjoyable from a like being a fictional character standpoint. Like that's to some degree that's a little fun that like this crazy comic book villain doesn't have an origin story, which just plays up to who he is as a crazy, like literally insane villain. So it's kind of cool from that dynamic. So even with this movie, the fact that they didn't lay out. Like that they laid it out in a way that could be that can be.
It was left for interpretation.
Yeah, that can be left for interpretation is really cool. And I know that Todd Phillips, he took a lot of inspiration from Robert De Niro's film. I want to say I think it's Taxi Driver, or is it? I'm gonna get butchered on the comic section, but regardless, that movie again, it was a big inspiration for Todd Phillips. Here's the one thing that I want to unpack just a tiny bit. When he's at the end of the movie, when he's in the asylum, he's talking to the lady, the psychiatrist or whatever. Like he says, it flashes back to the Waynes being murdered. I think Bruce is there, right? If I'm not mistaken, and then it comes back to the Joker. It comes back to Arthur, and he's saying like. He's like smoking, he has a cigarette, and he says like, he starts laughing a little bit. And the lady asks him like, why are you laughing? And he says, I just thought of something funny, but you wouldn't get it. Like some people are making a big deal about that scene, about that line of like, and it plays into these theories. Like is he thinking of the whole thing? Is the whole thing real, fake? But then people are thinking that he knows somehow that the Waynes died, and so like that he's happy about that or something along those. So I'm just thinking to myself, why I bring it up is like I just saw that scene as it's letting us, the viewers, know that the Waynes die, and this is the little connection to Batman. Mm-hmm. Like I don't necessarily saw that scene as it connecting to the character, the Joker.
Like you didn't read into it that much.
Yeah, I didn't read it. Like so much of this movie, and maybe it's just me being like, just a simpleton.
You're
like,
so naive.
Yeah, I don't know, but like I watched so much of this movie and I just took it. I just took it for what it was, and so like I'm not even like it never crossed my mind that some of these stuff were real or fake or in his head or not in his head, except for that relationship that he has with his neighbor. Because again, it's shown on screen, but yeah. So I'm like, so when it cuts back to the Waynes and being murdered, and it cuts back to Bruce being there, and then it cuts back to the Joker in the asylum at the end. I'm like, oh, it's just letting us know like these things are happening, like almost at the same time. Like it's kind of letting us know, hey, this is the little nod to the Batman origin, kind of a thing, and here's the Joker going off on his thing. So anyways, like I just didn't think like I'm not thinking too much of some of these scenes.
I feel like I think that like so Joker obviously he's not around while the Waynes are murdered, and so assuming that if the car crash happens, he gets taken out and put on the top of the police car, and then ultimately we don't know if he gets captured again. We're assuming if the sequence of events is exactly the way it is in the movie, and that's the exact timeline, we assume he gets captured again and is taken to Arkham, right? Yeah. And so I think I align with you as long as the timeline is how it is in the movie.
Yeah.
That somehow he finds out while he's in Arkham, that the Waynes were murdered.
Yeah.
And so then it's just he's I think just realizing the irony of it.
Sure.
Given, his potential family connection with the Waynes. So
yeah. So all these theories and stuff like that, like they're fun for me to read or to like watch or look up on, read up on.
Here's the unfortunate thing is I don't know if Todd Phillips is ever going to say this is it.
No, never.
Friggin' like Christopher Nolan school.
Yeah, he's never going to say what's real, what's not. But it's again, the film, it was a good film. Like the acting was great. Even Robert De Niro, like ironically coming back to like his role.
Yeah, maybe we should have him have a talk show.
Yeah,
like a night show.
Yeah. Like he did great. Like again, it's not a fun movie, but it really is it's a good film. I keep on saying it's a good film. Like it almost makes it more serious, and so definitely. I mean, you just gotta go into it knowing it's rated R. It's not a family movie. When we saw it, there were a good amount of kids, like middle school, high school students. There were some parents with their kids, and in my head, I don't know if it's just because I'm a new dad, I'm like extra protective, but I'm like I'm a little like questioning the parenting of like, you sure you maybe you shouldn't yeah like you sure, like I think Abominable is showing, like that new DreamWorks cartoon movie showing 2 theaters down. So I'm like, so you gotta know, like it's rated R. It's like a heavy movie. It's a serious movie, and it's not a comic booky movie. It's not action packed. It's not, it
really like it's a comic book movie in the sense that it's called Joker. But other than that, the similarities kind of end there.
That's it. Yeah, it's just a really good drama film, and so again, kudos to everyone that did it, that's involved in it. And like I said, like the whole time I'm watching it, my heart is just hurting,
breaking for Arthur. Yeah,
because really
he just really needs a hug.
He does, and again, like he's a broken character, broken human. I'm a broken human. You're broken. Like we're all broken to some degree, but on top of that, you throw on his issues, his challenges, his health stuff, and how he's being treated, and it's just like, oh, that's just unfortunate. So at the end of the day, like, just love one another. Just be kind.
Be kind to everyone.
Yeah, be kind to everyone. Love one another. So, any last thoughts on the film, man? Any other? I mean you pointed like, I think I want to see it one more time. After we saw it, I was like, I'm okay if I don't ever see it again.
Yeah.
But now that there's been some days passed since then, I'm
some
like,
healing.
Yeah, some healing. I'm like, I think I want to see it again, almost so I can see if I can catch anything. It's almost for that reason, like
Yeah.
see if anything stands out more, if like I can interpret something differently.
Right.
So it's like it's worth seeing for that reasoning to see if anything comes out this time around.
Like anytime you watch a Christopher Nolan movie.
Exactly.
Really. So,
exactly.
I don't know. I probably would watch it again for that reason, but I think it'll be a wait for it to come out on Blu-ray or you know, Redbox. So but I think that's it for me. Man. So that is our episode for Heroes and Joker. It's not the Joker, right?
Correction. It's just Joker.
It's just Heroes and Joker.
Yeah.
And so let us know what you thought of Joker in the comments or message us. Let us know on Instagram. However you want to get in contact with us. We'd love to hear your theories. If you have one that's different than any other media outlet, then let us know that too. We would love to hear.
We can break the news first here.
You heard it here first, folks. So let us know. As always, if you have some time to follow us, like us on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening, we would love that support. But that is our episode for Heroes and the Joker. So I'm Andy. You're Andy.
I'm Andy.
I'm Cody.
And we're out.